Hello there, Thursday community. We have an exciting new segment called Happy Hour. Every third Thursday, we're going to have people call in and have different guests and talk about different really cool topics. Thank you for listening, and be sure to subscribe to be notified of all new episodes. Hello, and welcome to Thursday's first live Happy Hour. I'm Jessie, co-host with Sam Anderson. Hey, Sam.
Hey, how you doing, Jessie? Excited to be here and with this group. You have a new follower now, so Brian's gonna have some competition. I actually follow him every morning for a morning run, jog, or bike ride, and get great industry experience. But really excited to introduce Brian from InvestBev, and our two guests, Andrew Nelson as well as Keaton Maddox, as these two experts in orange wine. I believe, Andrew, you are representing Bonny Doon's New World Orange Wine. And then Andrew, Silk Road, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. We each have two wines, although I think maybe only one of mine has arrived to everyone. So, but yeah, we've got a good assortment of orange wine here. I'm quite excited about this.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Old world and new world.
Right. So it sounds like one has 8,000 years of experience, and you have your third vintage. I said you were saying
this is our third vintage.
That's awesome. So looking forward to learning more. So I guess our ultimate goal is it good?
Oh, I was just gonna say we believe the future is bright orange.
Oh God,
I love it.
No pun intended.
I love it.
Look at Brian.
Yeah, I mean, no pun intended. Come on.
I'm looking forward to learning what the difference is, and is there going to be a fourth color category coming in the future? Maybe that we all over to you, Jessie, to take it from here.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, before I turn it over to Brian to give us the industry, his perspective on the thought of orange wine as a fourth category. We kind of come full circle here because in Andrew's podcast last fall, of course, we tried the wine. And he mentioned Brian as he wanted to know what Brian's opinion was of the orange wine category and if it had potential to be the fourth wine color. So we've come full circle, and I just with that I will turn it over to Brian.
Brian, basically the prediction, and I'm often wrong, just for the record, but the prediction is in 10 years you'll walk into a grocery store and you'll see the red, the white, the pink, and the orange section in retail.
Wow, look at you. I thank you for your prediction. Let me hit you with a dose of reality. It's very possible, but new categories, it's so much more than orange or whatever skin is touching, whatever wine, whatever grape. It's not about a new color. It's really about the customer adaptation of it all, right? Because winemakers by nature are innovative. And winemakers by nature are creative.
Agreed.
Anyone in our industry is a creative founder, a maker, a winemaker, a distiller, a brewer. So there's always going to be a next something. So I want to be very careful not to jump on the bandwagon full-throated. Is it a movement? 100% it's a movement, for sure. One of our own portfolio companies makes an orange wine, Nomatica.
I'm a big fan of it. I really like that wine.
Yeah, and Kristen, who is the somm there, and we invested considerable 7 figures into this company. Her orange wine is the top 5 SKU in the Whole Foods wine department. So,
awesome.
Yeah, totally awesome. So there is something there. But the one thing I think we all need to think about and maybe take a step back and reflect on is making a new wine doesn't make a longer shelf, right? Making a new wine doesn't make an extra slot in the cold box. That is not real. So for anyone to make an orange wine or the next best whatever, something's got to come out. So I'll challenge the group here. If orange wine, no matter who the maker is, if orange wine is going in, tell me what SKU is getting reduced. Tell me what SKU on premise and off premise can afford to give up. And I would say, I don't know. And that's the problem with anything new. And one more thing to noodle on before we can open it up for a discussion is that anything that requires extra education costs more money to sell. So if the wine is just for, let's just call it for giggles, $15 a bottle, whatever a wine price is, and the cost of goods is $8.50, which could be about right, right? Then you've got to add $2 or $3 on the cost of goods for education. Because how does a Soms are no problem, but how does the bartender, when someone says, hey, give me something new and unique, how does the bartender tell that story? How does the person who works the aisle in a wine shop, how do they tell that story when it's so much easier to sell Sauv Blanc or Pinot Gris or Semillon Chard blend? So I asked the group, right? There's only so many slots in a Kedco rack, right? There's only so many spaces in the wine cooler for cold loose bottles. What's going to go before
What's
orange
getting
wine?
kicked out?
Yeah, for sure. And so and I'm not clear on that. So before I hang my orange flag up, you hang your freak flag. Before I hang my orange flag, you have to tell me what flag am I taking down, and then who of the big producers can afford the education piece of a new varietal.
Is it true that these brands are additive free or low additives and natural?
Yes. We're not adding any sulfur pre-fermentation. It's a native yeast fermentation. I'm really interested in Keaton's methods as well. Keaton, you're doing it in Qvevri, and you want to talk about
Sure, yeah.
your wines here?
We have a little bit of the old and the new in our lineup. For those of you that maybe don't know, Georgia is considered the birthplace of wine. It was the first place that the grape was ever domesticated. It was certified by UNESCO World Heritage as the founding place of wine, and Qvevri winemaking was given a World Heritage designation. So this is something that's very true and rich to the people of Georgia. And they're going to keep making wine this way, whether or not we're consuming it in the West, right? And Georgian wine even coming to the West is something that's only really happened in the last 20 years or so. We can get into that a little bit later as to why that is. But when you have these styles of wine that, it's really just letting the grapes speak for themselves. It's giving a natural product that expresses themselves. And what we're missing out on so many white wines today is that we just strip all of the character out of them for consistency. I think that when we add the skin contact, and sometimes it's like 3 days, right? It's barely anything in the scheme of things. We have a 3-day skin contact and we have a 6-month skin contact. And you're tasting them now, so I'm sure you're seeing some of the differences there.
Just for context, ours are about 2 weeks, 14 days of skin contact on the Bonny Doon.
But just ask a question again. This is additive free, right? And it's not filtered?
Yes, and the Qvevris naturally filter themselves because of their shape. It's different than an amphora, which is used in a lot of other places. But the Qvevri is actually buried underground, and it's an egg shape. And when you put all the skins and the seeds in there, it naturally compresses and then filters down the wine.
Okay.
So Keaton, let me ask you a question. So, and this is my role in today's episode. Where does it fit on the shelf, right? So we can geek out all the time about the quality and how it's made and the terroir and the sun angle and how many days of rain and the skin touch and all that jazz. That's great, and I'm totally down with that. But how does the consumer find it, right? Where would it sit in a retail store, guys? And why is it a great alternative to another wine that they would buy normally and organically?
Obviously the things that we want to compete with, or I guess take the place of, if there's no other option, is going for those natural wine movement things, right? It's things that are about the ethos of the winemaker. It's about sustainability. It's about being an agricultural product. And that stands above being just a mass-produced alcohol liquid, right? Like we have to, yes, it's education, but it's also worthwhile education that a lot of consumers are willing to spend more for if they can get the story and the values that they want out of their wine. It does require creating.
Yeah, from a timing perspective, Yeah, and from a timing perspective, this is the year of the no and low, the better for you, the organic, all of it. This is that year now. So we've looked at investments more so now than in any previous year that are better for you, no and low, or Aveline, where the ingredients are all on the label of the wine, a really clean label, almost like that RX bar. That's how the label looks. And so, from a timing perspective, both you guys are spot on your timing. Spot on. So that's exciting as hell. I always wonder about will the customer act with their feet or with their wallet? And what I mean by that is people say they want better for you. They say they want organic. They say they want low fat. They say they want gluten free. They say they want no dairy. And they're at a Domino's getting a large sausage and pepperoni pizza, right? So what they say and how they act, how they vote with their wallet, there's always a disconnect. And I'm curious, you're winemakers. It's your brands, right? So how do you model that out in terms of, you both know it's great. We all collectively think orange wine is the next something, but how does the consumer reconcile with this is what I want as opposed to, or this is what I should have against this is what I want?
And where does it go? Such a good question. We've been talking about this a lot. Just for the record, I wouldn't call myself a winemaker. Sometimes I play one on television, but Nicole is the one picking the grapes, calling the picks. Randall, the founder. But yeah, so where does it go? It's such a good question, because if there's one orange wine on the shelf in like a sea of pink wine, nobody sees it. One of the things so we started, I'll just give a little bit of background. We started seeing it on menus on the coasts, New York, San Francisco, like a little bit in Chicago, Brian, but you'd start to see either skin contact with 2 or 3 by the glass options, or orange wine with 2 or 3. Oh, it just arrived. It just came. Awesome. And that was kind of the catalyst of, okay, this is a category. We're seeing it on these menus in the trendsetters. We weren't really seeing it in retail. In terms of retail, we've really gone towards the real estate of the box. So like a 3-stack, and the boxes, they're bright orange and they say orange wine. And so that kind of category. But then I'd also point to kind of like the rising tide lifts all boats. So the more people making orange wine and talking about orange wine and having orange wine in major retail, if we're the only one, if Bonny Doon is the only one, it's not going to get seen. It'll often get put, we see it in either like the pink section or the other white section. We have a campaign slogan going of orange is the new pink, and really trying to get consumers who have been on this Provence pink style, which is delicious, and we're huge fans of Bonny Doon. But now let's kind of, in the spirit of exploration, which is the Bonny Doon concept, wine exploration, how do we turn them on to skin contact and structure, and in a way that bridges that gap? So if you love Provence, you're going to love orange. What do you guys think about that? Because we're learning this, right?
You're carving out a category, but the reason I asked about natural and unfiltered, I actually think, and maybe this is happening, Brian, in the stores, they actually create a category. And I go back to tequila. There's a big movement, and everybody's like additive free, the whole bit. Is there a way to carve out a category with a retailer to talk about natural, Brian or Andrew or Keaton? I mean, that's what I was thinking, is create an additive-free natural wine section and have obviously orange wines be a part of it.
We really haven't taken that tact, just because of the perception of, not all the time, but we found that the perception of natural can mean microbial, or that there's some microbial flaws. So while there, where there's no sulfur and it's native yeast, we're really not leaning into the better for you and more into the wine exploration. But I didn't mean to cut you off though, Brian. What do you think on that?
No, look, I've done a lot of videos until I get kicked out. I do them in Costco, right? So they nicely ask me to leave. But I do these videos at the wine department at Costco.
You're videoing on your phone in Costco?
Yeah, I make my daughter hold the phone. And we're in Costco, and I'm around. They got the big bin there, the big tub of wine.
Yeah.
And obviously, they're the largest retailer in America in terms for the wine trade. And
sure,
if you want to see what's happening in the country, Costco will give you a 60-day head start on that. They're the first to produce. They're the first to prominently display new rosés. They are the first to have large format something. Forget the price part. They're ahead of it because everyone goes to them first to present, because getting 200 Costco's makes your decade. So that's one comment. So when you start to see them in mass,
and just for the record, we have not been in Costco with our orange.
No.
So that's a good
just
call.
For the record, I've only been kicked out of 3, so we're in good shape there too. But the other piece, the other maybe 4, but whatever. But the other piece of that is that, to your point, if the box is the landscape, right, then a 3K stack accounts for a 17% lift at retail. 3 to 5K stack accounts for an increase of 17% lift at retail.
Cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, and I got that.
That's an important number.
Yeah, for sure it is. And when I was at Anheuser-Busch in trade marketing here, that was a stat. If you get a floor display, you'll have a 17% greater lift than a single bottle display. So awesome. I love the idea of using the box as the marketing canvas. I love that. But my comment about Costco was the same thing I would say about Target, and the same thing I would say about other kind of mass merch retail that isn't necessarily Bevmo or Total. What I would say is Costco, Whole Foods, Erewhon in California, these are cutting edge retailers. And if you want to look at what's new and what's happening in the wine trade, you go there. And orange wine is carving out right now a ton of shelf.
Yeah.
So
yep.
Here's a challenge for the category. The challenge for the category is that you don't want to be a niche. You want to be a category, right? So the challenge is going to be to go from a cool stacking of overpriced stuff at Erewhon, right, to then go to Walgreens for real, or go to Total, or go to Bevmo, go to CVS, and be on the shelf everywhere. And those are really important things to think about. So for me to give a Brian Rosen official sign off on what a new category is and what's a pop and trend, that's a little bit of my indicator, right? I can talk to my investing friends at Diageo and Constellation and all that, and we can see what they're looking at. And there's not enough critical mass today on orange wine to be anything other than Zima today. But if good wines keep being produced by you guys and good wines keep coming out into the marketplace, you're going to get that, as what Sam said, right? It's not going to be one, it's going to be multiple in a category, and then rising tides can raise the ship. But right now, it's you don't want to be the first guy through the jungle. You want to be the second. The first guy always gets killed.
Most of the pioneers were killed, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You don't want to be that first guy. You want to be, hey, you go ahead of me. You go ahead. I'll be 10 feet behind you. And you want to be that guy, right? Because a 10 feet behind guy has less risk and more reward. And so that, from an orange wine perspective, those are things that the team should really, as I bounce off, as the team should discuss and think about, because having this triumvirate of 5 people that like orange wine and believe in the category, it just leaves 16 billion left. Right. So the key is how do you bridge it? Right. How does it become the Pinot? How does it become the soccer mom wine? Right. How does it become the daddy juice? How does it become those things? Because that's where the money is and that's where the sales are. Because whether you're at Bonny Doon or elsewhere, if it doesn't, no matter how great it is, if it doesn't make money, it's going to go on the disco list somewhere, and you don't want that either.
Agreed.
I think part of the problem that orange wine has had in terms of escalating as a product is who has the ability to do that large of a scale without the proven efficacy of success, right? Like producing these wines is oftentimes slightly inconsistent, requires a much more thorough hand, and there's a lot of ethos around how much work is going into cultivating these particular grapes and turning them into something real. So the point that a winemaker has the ability to fully stock out Costco and the Walgreens and the CVS, are we maybe getting away from what that ethos requires of them?
Yeah. So let me give you a counterpoint there. It's not about height. It's about width. You don't need to stock out the Costco, but 10 people that make orange wine need to create a section, right? Because it's going to be strength in numbers. It's going to be the takes a village mentality. There's no one's going to have enough 82 Coestrenal. No one's going to have enough 86 Margaux. No one's going to have enough Pappy Van Winkle. You're not going to have enough, but collectively you create a category. So I would look to the brethren in the winemaking community to say, hey, let's do 1,000 cases one year. And then everyone else does 1,000 cases. And all of a sudden you've got 30,000 cases in market or 50,000 cases in market. Then the consumer gets noticed. When the consumer notices, then they ask the retailer. When the retailer gets noticed, they ask the distributor. When the distributor gets noticed, they ask the winemaker.
Becomes a pull. What contributed to the rise of pink wine? And I'm thinking like more of the Provence style than the white Zinfandel. But pink wine exploded, right?
But it's not, because it's not called pink wine. It's called rosé.
Right, sure. At Bonny Doon, we call it pink wine if it's made.
Yeah. That's a distinction.
Yeah,
that's a distinction. I'm not bullshitting, because if you call it pink wine, you're in competition with white Zinfandel. You call it rosé, you're fancy.
Oh, interesting. I wonder what Randall would say on this. The technically we call it Van Gris, but that can be difficult for people to pronounce. So we've really leaned into the pink wine of the earth. The reason we're not calling it rosé is because there's no saunier, there's no bleed off of juice. It's kind of a purposeful pink.
Andrew,
you think that causes confusion?
No, Andrew, you're thinking like someone from the business. You got to think like a consumer.
Definitely.
No one drinks wine. Pink is white. Pink is Franzia. Rosé is Whispering Angel, and it's the same fucking shit. So
yeah, and it identifies with the consumer. It identifies with the consumer. Rosé identifies with the consumer. Like I'm going out, my wife's going out with her friends. They're all getting rosés.
Rosé all day. No one's saying white.
What contributed? Yeah. What contributed to the rise of rosé, though? Like what were the? And I have some thoughts on this, but Brian, what do you think in terms of when that went from sweet pink wine to I'm drinking this by the pool as a classy beverage? What contributed?
Well,
to that?
Rosé was an aspirational brand because it was from France, it was from Provence, and it had a cost to it. So it became aspirational. When it came over here to the U.S., California, Oregon, Washington State started to make rosé style wines. And so what happened was the American consumer wanted the aspirational brand. They wanted to spend more money because it made them feel sophisticated, smart, wealthier, and more accomplished. So that's what rosé was. The American consumer made in the rosé style. They would call it rosé, and then it became less expensive and more mainstream. So you've got not only the aspirational style from the French rosé, then you've got from Provence, then you've got California, etc. rosé that is a less expensive version of their French counterpart, and the consumer bought it hook, line, and sinker. French had the halo effect. America had the base effect. That's what it did. And it was a great marketing job. Fantastic. White Zin.
And do you think that can...
Franzia white, I'm getting I'll puffy up. Rosé from Franzia, Sutter Home, Deloche. That's all there was. When I grew up in retail as a young guy, that's all there was. These 1.5 liter bottles of rosé. That's it. And then people will come back from France and come into our retail stores and say, hey, do you have any of that rose? Oh, rosé, you
Right.
mean? Right. So the whole messaging changed, and the evolution of the consumer created demand. When demand was created, winemakers started planting more and better and different techniques in winemaking, and it became like an envelope moment where everything got stuffed in the envelope. And now it won't go away. I'm a rosé drinker. I love rosé. I drink California, Oregon, Washington State, French, even
Yeah,
on the
me
rare
too.
case when I'm lonely, Italian. So that's all part of my palate. And it was 20 years ago, it was only French, right? And so
Right.
this is the American consumer wants aspirational brands. The American consumer wants brands their friends can't get. That's why I think orange wine has some legs, because the American consumer wants to be the first to discover something new and then tell their friends about it. And so that's why there's first mover advantage left here that is available still, a first mover to take the swath of the audience.
It's very exciting.
You need another
Yeah, I'm out
movie
of here.
called Sideways.
I,
You need a
I like
you
it.
need a Sideways movie with orange wine, and then it's just
Listen, you
it's
produce, I'll
gonna
start.
explode.
I love it.
See you guys. Have a good chat.
Oh, thank you, Brian.
Yeah, see you, Brian.
Bye everyone. Thanks
Thanks,
everyone. Have a good
Brian.
talk.
Yeah, but I was saying, honestly, something that resonates with the consumer. Like I'm thinking about. Have you seen the movie Sideways?
Change
I'll
Pinot
see.
Noir
Yeah.
and Tank Malbec.
So,
Not Malbec, Merlot.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
right or love. But I'm saying is something that like rosé. You almost get like some influencers on it or some type of like it's like a movement. I mean, I've been in the wine industry since early 1980s, so I'm going to really age myself here. And I was in California in the wine industry, and in California, they were selling Chablis and Rhine, and all. I'd go into Vons and Safeways, and all the varietals were collecting dust. We couldn't get rid of them. They were sitting in the back room because no one would. They're buying, the gamut: Gallo, Amazon, Inglenook, and Taylor, and all that 3-liter stuff. So now you talk about orange wine. I actually think, I'm trying. And again, forgive me, but I think if you carve out why are people searching out orange wine? For instance, I have a question for you: are there sulfites in this?
They're going to be naturally occurring sulfites. That's really kind of impossible to avoid.
Okay.
All we can promise is no added sulfites. But
There you go. So, but that's a point of difference, though, because sometimes when people drink like a wine, sometimes they wake up kind of stuffy, right? With these wines, maybe you don't
yeah,
have that
and
effect.
I think that has a lot to do
You
with
know.
things that are more than just sulfites, right? Conventional wines are allowed to have 72 different additives added into the mix that they don't ever have to put on the label.
Oh,
There
wow.
are colors, sugars, different chemicals that they can use for stabilization. And the greatest thing about the natural wine movement is that they eschew all of that. They say, we're just going to let the grapes speak for themselves.
Yeah. So I would think that that's a story to tell. Maybe y'all tell it, maybe you don't, but I would tell it because I think that's how you
I think
carve
we're-
out a category.
And really lean into the natural aspect. I don't know. We've been talking about it a lot. These wines are delightful, Keaton. I keep coming back to smell them. They're totally different and delightful.
They should be evolving too. That's another thing I love about orange wines is that they change so much throughout the course of the time that you're drinking them. So you can have a bottle at the start of a meal, and then at the end of the meal, it tastes totally different, but you still enjoy the whole journey.
What's it good to pair with? Like when you're having an orange wine, like what is a good?
Depending on some specifics, I think like fried chicken is really good with orange wine. Or oysters are a great choice. Or like salty cheeses really bring out the best from skin contact wines. They make you kind of salivate, and then the tannins work in favor and make everything a lot more luscious.
Oh wow!
I'm big on spicy food, and orange. It really holds up to the heat, and the structure. I love the tannin on this one.
I mean, you got 6 months of skin contact, right? Like
So like, I think this is interesting. Let me see if I can, I don't know if I can turn this around. So I have 4 different orange wines in front of me. The first one, sparkling, amber sec,
Yeah.
lighter, still orange. I don't know if the color's coming through. The second one,
Yeah.
so that first one was just a couple days on skins, yeah? This second one is 6 months on skins? Look at that beautiful color. And then the Bonny Doones, both of them are about 2 weeks. I've got 2 vintages here, but you could see. So there's this range of color, much like there's a range of red, right? You can have like lighter red, super dark red.
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite games.
They taste more like a red wine than a white wine, right?
The texture and body
like,
of that, for sure. One of my favorite games with orange wine is to guess the color gradient, right? If you have a darker bottle like this, you say to your friends, all right, everyone guess 0 to 10, with 10 being like deep rust brown and 1 or 0 being like a straw yellow, and then the like pure bright ambers are somewhere in between, and you can see what you think amounts of skin contact will do to that.
That's really clean wines. I keep coming back to this. It has almost like an orange marmalade characteristic that's just awesome. And then good structure, but no astringency. I like them both, but I think that how do you say this one? The Riccatelli is a gem.
What do you think, Jessie?
I've tried all of them except for the amber sec. So
it sounds like you should open up a bottle.
It's pretty tasty.
Well, let's say, hey, the happy hour rules are we're allowed to drink here and enjoy, right? So
I do. I have my spit cup, but I'll enjoy as well. Keaton, what grapes are in here?
Yes.
What are the Georgian grapes?
Riccatelli is just 100% Riccatelli. That's the name of the grape.
That's the name of the grape, Riccatelli. Beautiful sounding grape.
Prevalent white wine grape in Georgia. And then the amber sec is a blend of 4 different grapes. It's got Riccatelli, meets Vanne, Khikhvi, and Chardonnay.
Are these is Riccatelli? Is it a white grape? Is it a copper grape? What does it look like?
Yeah, so it's
I'm not
white
familiar
grape,
with
but
it.
it definitely has some hues. The name Riccatelli means red stem, and that's because the stems of the grapevine are this brown reddish hue, and you definitely see some of that imparted in through the grapes.
That is awesome, Riccatelli. Our Bonny Doon orange. I actually have the 40th anniversary label here too. I don't think that delivered. This is the 23 vintage. I also have the 22 vintage here. I think that's what you have. Real similar blends here. It's rooted in Grenache Blanc and Grenache Gris. And then in the 22, there's a splash of orange muscat. And in the 23, we've added a little bit of Pinot Gris and Chenin. So you can see slightly, I feel like the color looks darker on the screen than in real life. Slightly more orange on the 23 vintage. And I think it's from the Pinot Gris, like just more of a copper color skin. Fermented in rotary fermenters. So the fermenters are on their sides and they have these paddles inside, these real gentle extraction, about 14 days, depending on the lot, and bone dry. And it just kind of has like that peach fuzz characteristic.
Still
I think that the nose is
kind of settling.
Yeah.
Is your crush the same as traditional, like regular wine? Did you go to crush the same time, or is it different?
On our side, some of it is, but some of it will crush more gently. So rather than just to stem and crush everything into the tank and then pump over like a red, it'll go into rotary fermenters. Not all of it,
okay.
But which is just a much more gentle, kind of controlled extraction.
Okay.
Our concern, or our we talk about deliciousness,
right?
And that's a pretty broad term. Like, what does deliciousness mean? But we're really trying to minimize astringency. And so I'm interested to hear the process on the Riccottatelli,
Yeah.
Keaton. Our process is really around how do we minimize the stringency? So, no sulfur add, a native yeast, a gentle extraction, so that there is some of the tannin, but it's not
Right.
bitter. I don't know if we're brave enough to do the Qvevri yet. We'll get there, but it's in the Qvevri for 6 months. Yeah, the clay
And they can
pot
go
on the
longer than
skins.
that. There's actually one of the owners of Silk Road loves to tell the story about how, with a lot of families, when a child is born, they'll bury a Qvevri of wine. And so it sits underground for however long until that child finds love, and then they'll pop it up at the wedding and they'll drink it together.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's been on the skins
So
for
it does
however
kind of
long,
naturally
Isn't it
however old.
amazing?
filter, so it
That's a
doesn't get
beautiful
stirred
story.
up as much, but so it filters down and creates separation, and then you can actually use the bits that you can drain out of the bottom to make cha-cha, or basically vodka out of the remnants.
When is your season over there? Like, what's the season?
Oh, in terms of like the growing year? I think
Yeah.
it's pretty standard with, I mean, you're still pretty close to Europe with like the way that you are in relation to the rest of the hemisphere. I think it's
Okay.
pretty standard in terms of things.
Okay.
But the climate in Georgia is really interesting because you have so many different topological elements, right? You have the Black Sea on the west coast, and then you have the Caucasus Mountains that expand along the northern side, and then you have this big valley full
Yeah.
of river basins that carry down nutrients, and then you have the cold winds that come down from the mountains at night, which causes the grapes to expand, to contract, and really develop full, rich flavors. So I think Georgia has a grounds comparable to, say, Napa in terms of what it can do. But there are also other parts of the country that have different soil types. And I mean, there's over 500 different grapes indigenous to Georgia. And
Oh wow. Do you are these single vineyard wines, or you source from
so
different
these are
vineyards
single
to actually put
vineyards.
together?
Yes. So the
Okay.
amber stack is interesting because all those grapes are grown to the exact same level of sweetness, even though it's 4 different grapes. They're raised
Okay.
separately. They
Shard, Riccottatelli, and then
Yes, we
two
had
other native Georgian.
Khikhvi, which is in this one here, and then we had
Oh yeah.
Mitzvane, which we have in this one here. And so both those are pure expressions of those grapes.
Oh wow.
We're trying to bring a little bit of all of Georgian varietals back to show, like, yes, the Qvevri stuff is really cool and we love the orange, but it's also about how many different grapes they've been growing and nurturing for so long.
And forgive me for asking this again. Do you actually bury it in clay
Yes,
and
it's
put it
buried in the
underground?
ground. And what that does, I mean, this goes back to 8,000 years ago, right? How do you keep the temperature stable? Yeah. So how do you keep the temperature stable through
Wow.
the winter
Okay.
and while you're aging through the summer? You bury it in the ground and you cover it with soil. And then you go check on it
Okay.
when it's time.
How big are these clay pots? Are
Some of
these
them,
like massive?
they range in
clay?
size. Some of them are small, but yes, some of them are big enough to fit a
You could
whole human
fit a
inside
human
of
on
them. And that's how they clean them. They pop down into the Qvevri. We have a nice video on our Instagram page if you want to check out someone cleaning inside of a Qvevri
Okay.
and just see how big they are.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. The 60 Minutes had a great
Yeah.
like
A
what do you
feature,
call it?
a special.
Review feature. Thank you. I'm disturbed that I can't get online with my my stuff over here, so I'm a little thrown. So I apologize, but I've watched it at least twice. I love watching it. It gives you a lot of context into the history and how monks were really a part of this, and they have their little rituals when it's getting ready for harvest, and it's fantastic. And they have a video, of course, of someone like punching the grapes down. And for me, I think just to try to understand how wine could be in these Qvevris for as many years as that they're doing over there is mind blowing. I mean, this
Yes,
amber
so
is what, 2017? I mean, That's a whole new world of thinking about white wines.
Oh, you're
know,
right. Yeah, it's
How long can
17.
orange
if I get a
or
bottle like
amber.
this, like I like to lay down wine. I've been in the industry a long time, so I'll get some wine I'm proud of. How long can you lay
Well,
this
so we
down
actually
for?
have one that's hidden away in our back catalog. We don't sell it online, but I've got a few accounts that are with it, and it's a 2011 Riccatatelli. And it is
Holy cow!
evolved into something that feels like a sherry, maybe more so than it feels like a wine, but it is incredible. And the flavor complexities you get out
Mm-hmm.
of it are really unlike anything I've had out of a wine otherwise.
Even with it being 17, I mean, there's still a lot of fruit. It's apricot and orange
Right. And a lot of people
peel.
think you can't age white
Mm-hmm.
wines, but I think
I'm glad that
ambers or orange are kind of the exception. Hmm.
What's the alcohol content?
11.5
I bet it's
on the
around 13.
Riccatatelli
Nope, 11.5. I can see that, everybody. I didn't have to put my glasses on.
and 12 on the
I thought it'd be a
Amber.
little higher. It tastes like it could be a little higher.
Yeah, we're like 10 and a half, 11 on Bonny Doon. So it really does fit into that kind of low. We talk about the difference between amber and orange. That was a debate. We were like orange, skin contact, amber, and we really debated between
Yeah,
those
so that
three.
Andrew, what would Clyde say the difference between your wine and Keaton's wine? He's come to earth. I'm reading your
Yeah, very good.
here.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
Well, I like to think that if an alien came to Earth
Yeah.
and explored orange wine, that there'd be appreciation for both styles. They're very different, right? Like particularly the Riccatatelli. I think this is like there's this richness to it and spice component, and like I'm gonna like take this home and taste it over the next few days. I'm quite excited about the depth of flavors, and much warmer. And feel free to disagree with me, Keaton. And Bonny Doon is much more kind of on the tropical. There's white peach, nectarine, tangerine. Um, I would say more of like an entry level orange. If you like pink, if you like rosé, you're gonna love Bonny Doon. And then I think you like this is something really special. Like I'm gonna try to get another bottle of this,
I know. I
Keaton,
feel like
and
I should have opened it.
bring
I
it
should have laid this
somewhere.
down for like 10 years before I tried it. So it's like,
So I think it's really the difference between kind of an older world
I'm
style and of warmer and more of a depth of flavor, and then kind of a new world style, much more fruit
I do. I
driven.
mean,
Do
you
you
have a
agree with
really
that,
like
Keaton, or
blue
do you
wine
disagree?
here. Like I could just drink this in the afternoon and have a good time.
Are you familiar? Is everybody familiar with that term?
no,
This
no.
is a
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah,
yeah.
so
Would
glue
you
glue
explain
is a
that, Keaton?
French
This is a good one.
onomatopoeia that basically is means like glug 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 glug, and it's the sound of you just pouring that bottle into the wine.
It's the sound of like the beverage
It's a
of
very,
wine. You know?
when they say in the beer world, it's sessionable. It's a very sessionable wine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Sessionable.
no, it's
So
called porch
Horsepower.
pounder.
See, now
It's
now
porch
you're talking about the
pounder all the way.
rosé crowd. You get them onto the glue and the sessionable and the porch pounder. We got something here. We got a
well,
category. We're rolling. Fourth category's
one of
coming
the
soon.
companies that I used to
There you
work
go.
for
It's not
was
orange.
they were called
It's not
Orange
orange. It's
Blue,
not amber.
and
It's porch
they were the
pounding.
world's first ever all
Yeah.
orange wine subscription service, and they were the world's first ever all orange wine store
Yeah.
in New York City. And so they
No way. I've heard of
yeah,
this. I've
so
heard of this store.
First
all
orange.
orange
It's all
wine,
orange wine
only
stores.
orange wines,
That's
founded
all
by
you can get.
this brilliant woman named Doreen Winkler. And so she is very committed to
Wow.
having all orange wines, and she wants them to be seen as drinkable. They're glues. Like you could just sit there and drink it. Whereas a lot of people think like, oh, this is going to be wild or intense or unapproachable, right? How do we make it so people just feel comfortable drinking orange wine as another category?
Yeah.
Which interestingly is part, Sam, of why we've been kind of cautious on the natural, the inclusion of that word. As we tasted through the orange category, we basically tried to taste every orange wine we could find, and some were super interesting, but kind of more like you're tasting really unique cheeses than like what Keaton's talking about. Like, oh, this is delicious. Like, can I get another glass of that? Let's try. So one of the concerns that we have just around the category of orange wine is educating the consumer around the deliciousness. But it's not a experimental beverage that you need to, be a wine geek to appreciate. I think both of yours, though, Keaton, are deliciously drinkable. So is this? Do you sell more of the Amber Sec with the sparkling and the slight sweetness,
Well, we
but really
just
balanced?
got the Amber Sec. Like, this is the
It's
first
so
month we've
good.
had to sell it. It just got off the boat. We've been waiting for a while. We've had the yes,
It's delicious.
Yum.
Great acid, nice
and
structure.
the sweetness I feel like really brings out the fruitiness of it, and then you still kind of get this like slight bitterness in the back of your throat that kind of feels like a grapefruit or maybe like a apricot peel.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good for
Peach skin.
So do you rack and stack these basically when you're aging them, or how do you do that? Like, what's your
So
process?
we get everything kind of
champagne?
ages for a little while it's in Georgia, and then it gets bottled and labeled for us, and then shipped over, and then we put it in our temperature controlled warehouse where it sits in cases until it's time to go out.
Okay.
And amber, I'm quite interested in that word. Both of these say amber on them, Amber Sec and Amber Dry Wine. With Bonny Doon, we've gone much more orange. Same style, right? We're fermenting white grapes on their skins like you would a red.
I'd be
would you
happy
talk
to
about amber a little bit?
This is actually something that's a little bit of a debate within the Georgian winemakers community. The reason why we use the word amber is because the way that the Georgian language refers to the wine made in this way literally translates to amber. So it's not orange, it's amber wine. And when
like sap, like the sap from a tree?
I would say like the color of amber, like in gold. Although that certainly evokes that image for sure, right? I had one person say like having a bug trapped in there. I was like, no, that's not quite what I want to associate with it. But then you have the other problem where like orange wine is really popular, right? It shows up in Google searches. It's ridden the natural wine movement. People are starting to see that this is a real thing. It shows up in some restaurants. It's some places it has its own category, even though it's rare. But amber doesn't really show up that way. It's still something that's new. And while the Georgian winemakers would argue, well, this is amber wine, we don't know what orange wine is, we are kind of in an internal discussion as to whether we need to lean more into catching the orange wine movement right, or if we should stay true to what the Georgian language would dictate for us.
Fascinating. Okay, so just a quick fun fact too. Orange wine is a recognized category by the TTB, by the governing body in the U.S. of wine that has been fermented from orange juice, from the juice of the orange fruit. So you can't put orange wine on the label. You have to have a kind of a fun, fanciful name that has the word orange in it. So ours is Le Cigare Orange, right? The orange flying cigar. And Gerard Bertrand's is Orange Gold. And so you'll see producers really try to like, how can we come up with a fanciful name that has the word orange in it? And you don't have to do that with amber. You can put amber wine, I believe. Our compliance agency might disagree with me, but if you go down the orange road, you'd have to think, oh, that could work, right? The Silk Road, the Orange Road. You'll have to think of a fanciful name. You can't call it orange wine on the label. It's really interesting.
That is, I didn't realize.
Well, I think it's also interesting too on, red, white, rosé, and then orange, and everybody's like, orange. Oh, yes. And so we were, my wife and I went back and forth, and I was like, well, what about L'Orange?
There's a brand called L'Orange.
You make it sound French. everybody will love it, you know? But then I said, well, what do you think about amber? She's like, oh, that's fine.
Well, you heard it here first.
So, you know,
you made a
the
new
important
category.
part
So
The
business here.
the main question that I get, particularly from people who have never tried orange, an amber, a skin contact, I guess just for the listeners, I view them all in the same category. It's white grapes that are fermented on their skins for some degree, for some amount of time. But the number one question I get is it made from oranges? And so the concern is the word orange can cause, oh yeah, this is made from oranges.
Mm-hmm.
You get that often, huh?
Yeah.
Right, but and it kind of goes back to what we said before, right? There's not enough of it out on the shelves right now for people to start asking questions. So you have to lead with, I'm going to educate you before you even know that you want this, which is a tough sell sometimes.
Yeah.
We've told it on the back. We really try to hold the customer's hand. So we say, this wine has the haunting fragrance of an elegant white wine. In this instance, the unmistakable scent of peach and the textural richness and depth of a red wine. Its orange color obtained when one ferments white grapes on their skins. It's like we couldn't get it to one sentence. That's Randall. Randall
you
wrote
make it very clear that
I think it's
delightful.
delightful.
It's very clear that it's not made from oranges. I'm reading the label.
Right, yeah. But it's interesting that the category can cause immediate confusion to a consumer, and it's something we're really thinking about. So, how do we hold the consumer's hand as they explore this delightful category, so that they don't feel intimidated and that they don't feel like it's an orange juice that's been fermented. Amber and skin contact are both good ways to do that. From our perspective, it appears that the word orange has become more accepted, but I don't know I think the jury's probably still out on that, but that's kind of the bet that we're making.
Over the last
As you
decade,
can see,
orange wine shows up so much more than anything else.
Yeah. That's how we saw it on menus too.
So
go ahead, Jessie.
I had a podcast with Chris Scott, who is a WSET level 1, 2, 3, and 4 instructor. He and his wife have a company. And they do all kinds of wine tastings, did really well through COVID, that kind of thing, because they're already set up online. And I asked him his opinion on, a lot of different things. And he's just all in on wine. And he definitely is in on orange wine. And he called it orange wine. He did not.
Interesting.
There was no discussion about amber, but I think it's because orange wine came out first or came out ahead, because Keaton, how many producers in Georgia are even using Qvevri, and how many are producing the amber
Qvevri
style?
winemaking only makes up a small portion of the total Georgian wine exports. It's something that takes a lot more time and effort, and it's a lot easier to export the other things that has to age for less time and more quickly, or doesn't have as much inconsistency. So it's a small category, I guess, in the scheme of things, even for Georgia. But it is obviously one of the most notable things because of what's happening with orange wine in America today, because we're seeing all these natural winemakers harken back to these ancestral styles and do it for themselves in new and exciting ways. And even we get to have our winemakers making it in new and exciting ways.
Yeah. Has anybody tasted, two of my favorites are, there's a bunch of good ones, so I don't want to miss any, but two of my favorites are the Orange Gold from Gerard Bertrand, and then Skins. There's another one from the Central Coast. I'm from the Central Coast, from Field Recordings, called Skins.
I have
you tasted either of those, Keaton?
One.
What I like about both of those is I think it has a broad appeal. Like, you don't have to know the category. Both of these do as well. So I just find it interesting. I like to see some of the bigger players entering the category, building awareness to the consumer.
Well, that's to Brian's point, right? The more people in, maybe you made that point too, Andrew, but the more point in the box, the more exposure you're going to get.
Yeah.
And the categories.
And we're doing that in Texas by having demos and getting people on the ground and getting,
Cool.
grapes in mouths. We that's the only way you're going to
Yep.
do it with something they've never heard of. They're not going to take a chance on something unless they've tasted it. So we got to get it into their hands and into their mouths.
What is the sparkling piece? Is that a traditional Georgian? I think this is the first sparkling orange I've tasted. I really like it. But is that unique, or is that really
it's not
common?
necessarily common. It's definitely using more modern
I love
techniques
that
to
one.
do the secondary fermentation. They let the native yeast.
This is
They
like a
add little
Charmat
bit of
method.
cane sugar during the secondary method, and then it ferments natively from there in a tank, and then they bottle it from there. So it's not a pet knot, but it's
delicious.
I think that,
right.
And if you're going to see an orange sparkling, it's probably going to be a pet knot most of the time. But I still think that category as a whole is very limited. You don't get to see nearly as many of those as you should, because sparkling orange wines are delicious.
Yeah, I keep coming back. To this. The Silk Road intersect. Guys, I'm going to have to run in just a few minutes, but I know that there might have been questions.
Do you see questions? I can't see the monitor.
I thought I saw. Question might be old-fashioned, but where does orange wine fall in the universe of food pairing? I think we covered that a little bit.
If you would like to learn more about how to pair your amber wines with different things, we have this Georgian wine pairing wheel, which is on our website. You can get a physical copy as well. Nice. But with each one, it details what the wine is like if you've never had it before. Here's a similar thing, what the tasting notes are, and what foods you should pair it with. And so here we we say fresh oysters and Parmigiano Reggiano and fried chicken. As all different possibilities. Those are great ways to look and explore different ways to pair your wines.
Yeah, I'm looking at the questions too. I don't see. Did that cover it, Andrew?
I think so.
Great. Well, I think this has been an awesome session. Full transparency, I didn't know much about orange wine coming into this, so it made me educate myself a little bit better in terms of understanding the category and what the opportunity is. And I've been doing this for a long time, so thank you for introducing me to orange wines. I'm now a fan. Now I got to figure out how to get that one bottle, Keaton, to lay down, and then I'm forever. I have my calendar now, man. I'm gonna actually be posting this. The Clyde calendar. This is awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, so it's Bonnie and Clyde, right? Clyde, and essentially the calendar. Shout out to Corey on our team. The calendar is just delightful. Basically, the alien comes to Earth and has all these experiences with humans and wine in each month. It's quite delightful.
I'm looking forward to making a visit to see both of you. You have a physical place. I'm assuming
we do. Yeah.
Okay.
Dune to Earth in Aptos, California, for wine exploration. Okay. Unique winemaking methods, grapes, and alien spacecraft.
And where's that located? Does that have the San Francisco? Where's that in terms of?
It's south of San Francisco, but it's like just south of Santa Cruz. The town is called Aptos.
Okay. My daughter lives in Pacifica.
APTOS.
I'm coming out there actually in February.
Yeah.
So I'd love to check it out.
Let me know. And Keaton, you live in Florida? Are you ever out here?
I live in Jacksonville, and our main office is in Orlando, and we have another office in Houston. But I used to live in Los Angeles, and I'm actually going there next week. So, but that's a little bit far.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Well, it'd be fun to meet up with you. You are an amber wine expert, and I particularly love the story of love. You bury the Qvevri, and then you dig it up when your child's ready to get married.
Yeah. I'd love to come check out your winery sometime. I'll hit whenever in the area.
Please. And it's Rattatelli. Say it one more time. The name of the main Raccatatelli. Raccatatelli. Cool.
Andrew, I don't know what time you have left, but do you have any time to talk about how Bonny Doon came to be?
I could tell the story really quickly. Well, so Bonny Doon is a hamlet, a
It's
town
worth it.
near Santa Cruz, and the founder Randall Graham is like the Willy Wonka of wine. So just real quick, Keaton, Sam, Jessie, and the rest of the listeners. I'm with WarRoom Cellars. We're a wine business based out of the Central Coast. Our strategy is to acquire legacy wine brands that have been around for a long time and that are declining, and then we revitalize them by focusing on what consumers love. And sometimes that's a founder story, sometimes that's a specific appellation. Bonny Doon is all about exploration, and so the story that Jessie's referring to in the 50s. In Châteauneuf-du-Pape, in a very fine French Rhone growing region, there were many UFOs being sighted, and the French refer to UFOs as Cigare volants, le Cigare volant. And the mayor of Châteauneuf-du-Pape was very worried that these Cigare volants would land in the vineyard and damage them. And I guess that the whole town was perturbed. So they passed multiple laws, seriously, prohibiting the landing of flying UFOs, Cigare volants, and even specified what would happen if they did land. They were like told to the pound. And Randall, our fearless leader, the guide to the universe, Randall found these laws and just thought they were the most ridiculous thing. And so his original, 1983 label, which we've tried to restore and have done. Worked with an illustrator, but there's Randall right there. That's his superimposed face. You got the flying cigar here, and then everything speaks to exploration. You're kind of the parent-child exploring. There's the death of the cork going on down there. Everything's under screw cap. But the story of the flying cigar is near and dear to us at Bonny Doon, and anybody that wants an alien, Bonnie or Clyde, we send the aliens all over. And I got some requests from our last podcast. Keaton, I'm glad to send you one if you'd like an alien. They're really fun.
I don't.
Do you have children? That's okay. The kids are drawn to the alien.
Very much
there you go.
They are.
Okay.
I'll send you one, Keaton.
I'm not a child, but I'm drawn to the alien.
They're fun.
And by the way,
do you not have one, Sam? I'll send one to you too. I thought we'd send you one. We'll send you for sure. And any listener that wants one, if you email me at andrew@warroomcellars.com, I'll send you an alien.
Oh, that's awesome. And by the way, the other bottle just arrived, but I couldn't answer the door. My dog was losing his mind just now. And the guy's like standing at the door. I'm like, I can't answer the door to go get my wine. So anyway, it's all fun.
I'm sorry that they didn't arrive before. We kind of predicted this. Jessie and I were on the phone earlier and basically said, look, I'm sure that they'll arrive right after we're done with the podcast.
It's the way it works.
Keaton, it's so cool to see the Georgian wines. And I'm really excited about both of these. Thank you for sending them out.
One other orange wine that you didn't get to try. It's called Khikhvi.
Cool. I like the color. Darker, darker orange, huh?
Brown bottle, so you can't see. But we have both so this is a 2017, and then we also have a 2017 that's not Qvevri, also Khikhvi. You can see like the differences between what 6 months of skin contact does to the same grape.
Oh, that's really cool.
Well,
and Jessie and Sam, thanks so much for having me on and for supporting the movement of orange and amber and skin contact.
Well, thank you.
We'll prove Brian. Well, he didn't totally disagree.
Tough road, which I think we all knew getting into this.
That's absolutely, yeah. I mean, anybody trying to make it in the wine business, you got to have a strong stomach.
Right. Well, anytime you're trying to take shelf space.
Well, what we need is orange wine to show up in the WSET. We need the world wine organizations to start respecting it as a category, and everything else will follow from there.
Cool. Oh, that's a great
Yes.
call. That's a great call. Guys,
That
I
is a
have to
great
run.
call.
Thank you so much. Great to meet you, Keaton. Really beautiful wines. Sam,
Yeah.
Jessie, always great to see you guys.
Pleasure.
I'm going to hop. Thank you. Have a great day, you
Hey, man.
guys. The future is
Okay.
bright orange.
Bye.
Feel free to join our happy hour
Bye now.
anytime. You're always welcome.
So Keaton, do you want to do you have a few minutes to just kind of run down just top level a little bit about silk wines and I don't know if we really had time to kind
Sure.
of get into that. So and that'll just kind of be in
Okay.
closing
Yeah.
here.
So for those of you who have
I think it's
made it
important.
all the way to the end of the podcast and didn't know what we were doing, but we're curious to stick around to the end, Silk Road Wines is a importer and distributor of wines from the country of Georgia, which is the first place to ever domesticate grapes. We have we have 15 different wines in our main lineup, and then we have 4 different warrior wines, which are all portions of donations goes to those to help wounded veterans in Georgia and give them jobs working in the vineyards and facilitating their recovery. But we have 15 mainline wines, including 3 new sparklings. A lot of our wines are made using the ancestral style with Qvevris, but many of our things use the more modern techniques, as we've seen with like the amber sec and some of our whites and traditional reds. We have some that are aged in oak barrels. So we have a full gamut lineup of what you can see out of the possibilities of Georgian wine. We are currently in retail locations in Florida and Texas, but we also have a permit to sell direct consumer online. So all of our wines are available for purchase to be shipped directly to your house. We have 3 specials going on right now. One of them is a sweet indulgence gift box where we've partnered with a chocolatier in Houston, where they've curated 9 specific chocolates that are designed to bring out the best from 3 of our semi-sweet wines. And this is a great Valentine's Day gift. We're selling it for $99. It includes 18 chocolates and 3 wines. We also have one which is with our Saperavi Reserve, which is our most premium wine. It normally retails for $45, but we're selling 3 for the price of 2 at $90 for Valentine's Day. And then finally, if you want to try the new sparkling wines, including the Amber Sec, a new Rosé Sec, and an Extra Brut, we're doing a gift box of those that includes champagne flutes for $50. So a lot of different ways to try the wine right now. We have a ton of resources on our website. I'd encourage everyone to follow us on Instagram. It's not going to stop anytime soon. We got a lot of exciting stuff going on.
I'm thinking Valentine's Day now for my wife, actually. So, like, okay, I know what I need to be ordering. So, look for an order from me soon.
Great. Yeah, some of the flavors for the chocolates kind of blew me away. Like there's a chipotle and a ginger and an acai pomegranate, a blueberry cardamom. They really went all out in coming up with flavors that are going to bring out something a little bit different from each wine, but all of them pair amazingly. I think if you order that, you'll really enjoy it.
Sounds great. I don't want to miss it.
No.
Well, Sam, Keaton, anything else that we need to cover before we say goodbye?
I think this maybe we'll provide where to go actually order this great wine would be good, probably within the podcast.
Yeah, so you can order all of our wines at www.silkroadwines.com. Very easy. We have our full product page there.
Okay.
And you can order everything we ship. There are about 6 states that we can't ship to because of laws, and the city of Ellsworth in Massachusetts, they're a dry county. So if you live there, I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to order wine.
Just have it go to the county next door.
Amazon locker, that's okay.
Go to your cousin. Yeah, there you go. Amazon locker. You don't need a cousin.
There you go.
Well, thanks so much for having me on, guys.
This is awesome.
Well,
this
this
was great.
has been really fun.
Yeah, Keaton, nice meeting you. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. And you're always welcome. I was trying to tell Andrew, you're always welcome to join us. So this is a happy hour. So always feel free to pop in and join us.
I'd love to come join you in another one, for sure.
Tune in next Thursday and have a great week. This week's episode was produced by Fedora J Productions.